Aardman's first fully CGI movie, which to this day no one's really certain if this was made that way because DreamWorks were pressuring them to make a new movie fast, or because the Aardman storage and studio building tragically burnt down around that time. Even if this movie was done with Aardman's traditional stop motion, a lot of the humour feels like something that is more DreamWorks than Aardman. Not to say that's a bad thing, DreamWorks are very good with writing, but their style of humour is a lot more, I hate to use this term, American than Aardman usually are, such as the slugs randomly singing pop songs for the purpose of filling up the soundtrack, a well-known DreamWorks staple, and having much more faster action-themed set pieces as opposed to the more laid-back character-focused scenes in the previous Aardman movies. But those traditional elements are still there, and it's nice to see some different elements in this movie compared to the previous ones. But given DreamWorks' probable interference added with the fact that it's the lowest grossing Aardman film of all time, it seems that even Aardman themselves want to forget this movie exists. But does it deserve to be forgotten? Well, let's take a look. Roddy the Rat, played by a completely unrecognisable Hugh Jackman, is a fancy rat being kept by a rich family in Kensington, and whenever the family are away, he comes out to play, and he has complete free roam of the house and seems to have everything. That is, except for company. But all that changes when, out of nowhere, the sewer rat Sid, played by Shane Ritchie in one of only 2 movies he's ever been in, pops up from Roddy's sink and decides to become a lodger in Roddy's house. Naturally, Roddy isn't very happy about this and tries to trick Sid into going back into the sewer where he came from by flushing him down the toilet. But Sid triple crosses him and flushes him down instead. But as it turns out, the sewers in this world are more than just poo pipes. There's a whole miniature London down there for the rats, made up of rubbish that's been sent down the river, as it were. Despite this, Roddy just wants to get home, thus hitches a ride with smuggler Rita, played by Kate Winslet, and on their way back they have to contend with the kingpin of the sewers, the Toad, played by Ian McKellen and his henchmen. This is again another story that you can see exactly where it's going once Roddy meets up with Rita. It's basically going to be an African queen / swept away story about the rich, entitled person finding something that they've always been looking for in the last place they'll look. And while it's still a good story and done justice here, it's a bit disappointing that we've just come off a movie with a very original story and now we're going back to a slightly more derivative one. That being said, the relationship between the 2 main characters is done really well. It's a bit similar to Ginger and Rocky's relationship in Chicken Run, but with one clearly being more submissive than the other, and with them being brought together and forming a relationship under slightly more forced circumstances rather than just a chance encounter, which is a very interesting dynamic and makes their development as friends all the more deeper and endearing. But of course, their journey is not without opposition. The Toad is on their backs all the way due to them stealing something of his early on in the film. The erratic and manic Spike, who reminds me a lot of Moe from The Simpsons, the passive and almost childlike Whitey, and the Toad's French cousin and sleek secret agent, Le Frog.
Bonjour.
Speaking of which, this is some of the best voice acting in an Aardman movie yet. Jackman and Winslet are almost unrecognisable in their respective roles. Ian McKellen does a great job with his booming voice as the villain, who is played more comedically compared to the previous ones. But this time it does work, plus his size and power as the literal underworld leader still makes him rather intimidating.
Hello, Rita.
Hello, handsome.
And who is this? Is your new boyfriend a waiter?
Boyfriend?
Waiter?
Andy Serkis does a great voice role like he always does and really gives life to Spike.
All right, it's time to bring out the Persuader.
The amazingly talented Bill Nighy does another great job as Whitey.
I used to work in a laboratory up top. Yeah, big shampoo job. I was dark grey when we started. Yeah. Still, it cleared up my dandruff.
And the surprising cameo of Jean Reno does a great job as the cynical and snooty stereotypical Frenchman, Le Frog.
Forgive me my warty English cousin, but this bizarre obsession with the rats, it is not good for you. You are becoming what we French call le fruitcake. You stupid English, with your Yorkshire puddings and your chips and fish. You thought you could defeat Le Frog?
Sadly, as I said earlier, while all of these people do a fantastic job, not all of the jokes they say are that great. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying the jokes are bad, I'm just saying that some of them really don't fit in an Aardman movie. I appreciate companies branching out and trying new things for their movies, but a lot of these jokes feels like they were put in because they got a note from DreamWorks saying, "This tested well, put it in." And I could be overestimating it, but the joke where Spike keeps hitting his nads on the pipe, or as I said at the beginning, the slugs randomly singing pop songs out of nowhere.
Lonely, I'm Mr. Lonely. I have nobody
that seems more like something you'd see in Kung Fu Panda or Shrek. And while they work fine there, ball humour and bending to the zeitgeist has never been something that Aardman is into, at least in this phase of their career. That being said, the jokes that do work are the ones that we see most often, that being how the rats utilise the things in the sewer to make their own little world. It's sort of like a dirtier version of The Great Mouse Detective or An American Tail, and I love it. And you could kind of see where this could have worked as a stop motion film, since they could have used the real deal, like real phones, blenders and so forth. But of course, for whatever the reason is, they decide to make it animated with CGI, and they did still make it look like a traditional Aardman film, and it does work for the most part. And while the story is a bit derivative, it's still very entertaining, and there are times where they do something that you wouldn't expect them to do. Overall, while I can see that this must have been a tough movie for Aardman to make, and the fact that it barely turned a profit probably doesn't help their memory of it, I still like this movie, and I do recommend you check it out if you get the chance.